guest is Gabe Weis. He's a mixed media artist. I'm your host, Ann Kelly. Where are you today, Gabe?
I am in Albany, California, just a block away from Berkeley, here in the East Bay.
How long have you been living there?
Going on almost 20 years in California, 14 years in the Bay Area. Spent some time down in San Diego. Originally from Illinois. Went to school in University of Wisconsin in Madison. Midwestern mutt, but loves California.
Midwesterner on the West Coast. Awesome.
Yeah.
And you're an artist, and how did you get into that?
I took high school art, proceeded to study sociology and political science, just kind of painted for fun every once in a while in college, and then picked up a lot in the last 5 years, I would say. I was steadily painting, but I've been on Instagram for about 5 years. That's kind of what I guess gave me the confidence to make more art.
Your work, you talk about combining stream of consciousness with cubism. Is that right?
That's a pretty accurate representation.
So do you think some of the stream of consciousness aspect of the work kind of came from your earlier studies to a certain extent?
Yes and no. Realistically, it's more like a meditation, I would say. So it's a way to kind of relax and kind of let some stuff go. I'm not a big fan of watching TV, but you need some way to unwind at night. So listening to music or a podcast or something, and kind of just letting whatever happens is kind of my favorite way to do art, and try not to overthink it. I mean, every once in a while I come in with a very specific idea, but a lot of the times I'm going with the flow.
Just break out some paint and see what happens.
Yeah. It's been a little bit of a bummer with the pandemic, because my favorite thing to do is just to go to the art store and buy a few different things and then come and play with the new toys. Because at this point I have all the ones I know about, but there's so much at the art store to try out new, and I just haven't been to one since March.
Probably ordering materials online isn't quite the same exploration.
No.
Going into the store and actually seeing what there is.
Well, I've kind of been doing a lot of stuff on cardboard, on the back of cereal boxes, and on the inside of books, just trying to get some kind of different look and feel without the new materials. Mostly acrylics, a lot of graffiti markers, and kind of stuff in the graffiti world generally.
Well, speaking of cardboard, Edward Munch's The Scream is actually painted on cardboard.
Really?
Yeah. Granted, that piece is maybe been through some restoration. I don't have the details on that, but
yeah,
it's still looking pretty good. So your Instagram page. So yeah, you were talking about the pieces on cardboard and books, and I was checking this out the other day and kind of wondering about the inspiration in this. So you've just answered that.
The inspiration behind the books, the stuff on books. I've always liked it. Phone books was my first thing I fell in love with drawing on, especially for the cubism I do. The lines really help. Just it's really easy to make perfect straight lines, and then they look really good, kind of in contrast to the background. Plus, I just like the idea of kind of using these redundant things that don't necessarily matter as much, like a dictionary. The ones I've been drawing on, it's nice, but it has 1/100th of the words that WebsterDictionary.com has. There's just not going to be too many times I'm I've really got to open up this dictionary to figure out the definition. Phone book, same deal. Pretty surprised that they're still made. Those have been some of my favorite things. And then cereal boxes. I've got 2 kids, and they just crush Cheerios. They just eat 2 huge bowls every day of their life. So we go through an absurd amount of Cheerios.
So you got plenty of materials to work from.
Tons of materials.
Keeping the books intact?
So on the dictionary, I've just kept it in the book. I sold a couple of them, and then it was probably the thing I got the most requests for. But in my head, I really want to frame it and do a show at a gallery post-COVID. We'll see. I haven't really done this too much. Usually when people want to buy stuff, I happily oblige. But in this instance with the dictionary pieces, I really think they came out pretty strong. The one that we're looking at now is on a book that was out for people giving stuff away on the sidewalks. I'd been doing nightly walks, and someone had like a biography series that looks like just kind of, they had like 40 of them, but I just took the Aristotle ones and Darwin.
Nice.
So I'm pretty sure that one's on Aristotle.
I get this right, that you've been painting for 5 years, or that's just when you really got into it?
That's when I started showing it to people. I mean, I painted pretty much continuously since I was 15, and I'm almost 40. So a lot of years of painting, but I would say most of it was just painting over things like 20 times. So like I had like 10 canvases, and some of those canvases had 5 to 10 different paintings on them. There weren't too many where I loved them until about 5 years ago.
And then you just decided it was time to get it out there?
Yeah, I started putting it in my office, and I started getting really good feedback from strangers, which, like, if someone comes into your house and sees a painting, like, and they're one of your friends, they're just kind of a jerk if they're like, that is a terrible painting. So it wasn't until I kind of like heard some strangers talk about the work, how much they loved it, that it like kind of gave me the confidence to like, maybe I should put it out there. And then started putting on Instagram to like my friends and family, and would get like 4 to 10 likes for the first year. I think I'm at like almost 52,000 followers now. So it's kind of went crazy, way crazier than I ever would have imagined.
An impressive number. So here's one of the cardboard pieces right here. Hop over to your website. Are you represented by any galleries?
I'm not.
Your website looks really great. From what I can tell, you're selling your original things. It looks like you're also making prints of them. Is that right?
I haven't really done prints yet. It's
okay.
The goal is to start in the next 2 months, to run out a few, and I'm doing a lithograph with a company in Europe, so I will have some prints that are like hand signed coming out here shortly.
On your website, you've got t-shirts. This was interesting too, your tattoo license idea. I don't think I've seen this before.
I stole this from the woman who has that tattoo right there. Like, one of her friends is an artist in New Zealand, and I'm blanking on the name, but she did the tattoo ticket thing. About once or twice a week, I have someone hit me up because they want to get a tattoo of my work. And I mean, I'm so honored. It's like probably the biggest honor I can get as an artist, that someone wants to put something that I've drawn on their body permanently. So I've always been hesitant to ever ask for money, but I figured this way it keeps it so people can feel fine about it, and maybe I'll make a little bit of money from it. I've done some custom ones. I mean, it's not like it's going to be far off from my normal style, right? Someone says like they want a picture of Muhammad Ali, they're probably not going to get a very strong rendition.
Well, the cubist-ish version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't think
if that's what you're looking for, it's perfect.
Right. Yeah. So, but I've definitely done, like, this one here was a custom one from a big fan of mine in New Zealand. I've been pretty shocked by the fact that Instagram is so worldwide, like, and tells you stuff about like where your artwork is popular. I've been popular. One of my top 5 cities for the last several years is in Tehran in Iran. It's pretty rewarding, I guess, to know that I'm popular in a country I can't visit.
Yeah, I think too, it's just the crazy, the reach. So my buddy Michael Roner that I mentioned earlier, who's also a painter living in Berkeley, he's got kind of an illustrative style as well. And he said it's pretty common where people will get his paintings tattooed on them, but they'll just end up posting a picture and tagging him.
Yeah. And I mean, most of the time, the tattoo artists are amazing. Every once in a while, I get one, will send me one, and I'll be like, oh man, that's on your body forever. That was a 10-minute sketch. The ones I've posted, like some of these tattoo artists are like mind-blowingly good.
One from your website, right?
Yeah.
You're doing a pretty awesome job of just, even just through Instagram, selling your work that way.
Thank you. I mean, I would definitely love gallery representation, but I work full time and I have a 5 and a 7-year-old. This is the way to kind of make it a side hustle where I don't need the middleman. Although I'd be very happy if a middleman who knew a lot of rich clients wanted to come my way. Like that wouldn't be something I'd be offended by or anything. But I just really just don't have the kind of bandwidth to do more. I mean, I've hired someone who's kind of helping me out. She's my art manager. So she's the one who put this website, like my website together, and it's kind of been helping me with the sales and referrals. When people kind of DM me, I kind of send it to her to work out the sale, because it gets pretty tiring going back and forth sometimes. Not that there's worse things than having people want to buy your art, but I just only have so many hours in the day.
You've seen there's a lot of work that goes into that. Gallerists deal with all of those connections. I feel like some artists have more business sense than others.
It looks good. As someone who works in a gallery, that makes me feel good. Been pretty lucky over the course of my lifetime. Growing up, I got to live in Rio de Janeiro for a while as a youngster, and then again in high school. After college, I backpacked Europe for almost a year, and then my wife and I, for our honeymoon, did like a 4-month trip in Central and South America. But pre-pandemic, and any opportunity to get out of the country, I'm really a big fan of. Been, I would say, helpful to see all this stuff in my work. I think it's kind of influenced it without me saying like, this is Carnival in Rio. It's more like the exposure to the bright colors and the festiveness, and trying to capture maybe multiple emotions all happening at once.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned urban art and graffiti as an influence.
Yeah, so like I studied abroad in Oaxaca, Mexico. Nice. And it was, when you're from the Midwest, it's funny, I was just back for 2 months and I noticed just like there's almost no graffiti. Like literally almost just none in the town I grew up in, until I went to Mexico, that I finally saw all of this street art and just became obsessed. And it kind of has been a huge kind of influence from that point on. And I will say my career was short-lived. I did one piece, and then my wife's like, "You're not going to go get arrested." That was it. So now I have to, after that dream was killed, I figured I'll try to make graffiti on canvas.
Cubism is present in your work. Picasso is kind of the obvious artist everybody thinks of.
Right.
There are different types of work or other artists or other mediums that you feel like play a role?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I get more from people on Instagram than I have from any kind of like historic reading. I haven't done a ton of, like, my art history knowledge is pretty mediocre at best. I've tried to watch every like movie on YouTube and things like that where I can pick up information, but it just hasn't been this thing where I'm not steeped in a lot of art history. For me, it's more of like kind of letting my subconscious go and kind of creating these. It's like in some parts of me, it feels like the art looks like ancient, and then some of it feels like the future, like almost like futurism to me. So I kind of like playing with this idea of this could be like a relic, or that this is like very hyper modern.
Well, futurism grew out of cubism. I mean, that's one of the interesting things about kind of the history of art, just styles. In this day and age, we're all connected through Instagram and YouTube to kind of educate yourself. Because of that, I think today are working in all of these different styles, whereas historically, in whatever style was popular at that time.
I mean, it's been a huge plus for me all the time. In the comments, people will say that my art reminds them of this or that. So that's kind of been a huge part of my knowledge base, I guess. It comes from some really friendly commenters.
Yeah, well, we get our knowledge from where we get it. It's 2020. Did you even know what Zoom was in 2019? I didn't. And
no, it's a part of my everyday.
There's so many interesting things that can be done this way.
I just, like you were saying, I think it can be real beneficial for artists to hear from other artists. There's a podcast called Savvy Painter, and I've been listening to it for, I don't know, about a year. And I will say I also get a lot of kind of art information from that. Or Artists Interrupted is another one.
I need to look more at that. There's so much out there right now. It's kind of amazing. So,
right?
In all of the places you've traveled, do you have a favorite food?
Ooh. I mean, the steak in Buenos Aires with like wine is just the best thing to me, I guess, that you can eat. I mean, I love food generally. The food in Oaxaca was amazing. Yeah, I'm pretty equal opportunity when it comes to food, but like the steakhouses, like all you can eat steakhouses in Brazil or the steakhouses in Buenos Aires are pretty incredibly good. What about you in Santa Fe? What's the cuisine?
Oh, have you been?
Never been to Santa Fe.
Oh, gotta come visit. So New Mexican food, that is our thing. Which a lot of people confuse New Mexican and Mexican food and Tex-Mex, and they're all kind of similar, but a little bit different. Component are green chili, not to be confused with Texas chili. But you've got your enchiladas, your burritos, fajitas, chimichangas, all that.
Like a green chili salsa, or is it just all around ubiquitous green chili?
Chili that's roasted and chopped and maybe has some garlic in there that you really can't compare it to anything. You're just going to have to come visit and check it out because
done. Put that on the list of places to visit. I've been wanting to for a while, and I'm not too far away here in California.
We've also got what we call our magic light. So at about 5:00 every night, depending on the time of year. There's a reason there's so many artists and photographers have come here. It's just kind of an inspiring place. A lot of different cultures.
I will make sure to go there relatively soon.
Select work by artists.
I do. I get a lot of requests for trading, and I have a tiny little house. I mean, everything is so expensive here in the Bay, so I do not have a house to showcase a lot of artwork. And my wife is a minimalist, so she likes I have 2 paintings up, and then 400 paintings tucked every other place that I can hide a painting, pretty much between the garage and my art studio. My running rule is just can it be a small one? Did an art trade early on with a Mexican artist named Simon Cruz, who makes just incredible work, but it's just, he gave me a very large piece. And so it is in my small little house. It doesn't get a hang up right now, and I'm so sad. Someday I'll get to showcase my art more than I do right now.
So if there was an artist, living or dead, that you could trade a piece of artwork with, who would that be?
Probably Basquiat.
That would be awesome.
Right? Just the interviews I've seen of him, I think he kind of speaks the most to my both aesthetic and just the way he kind of thought about the world. I mean, I'm not in his ballpark, obviously, but I really like that kind of motif and the writing the words and scribbling stuff out and kind of letting yourself maybe come to a message through maybe listening to music or something like that. Some of my work on top of photographs, I've really tried to get in a mindset, I guess. So it's like putting on like Nina Simone, and then like just getting in a mindset of defiance.
I personally cannot imagine working on anything creative without music.
Do you have any type of favorite music?
Oh, I love all different types of music. I really do. I'm a big fan of reggae, 90s hip hop. I also love David Bowie. I mean, it goes on. If you listen to my playlist, like the one on my phone, it's a little bit of everything.
Nice.
What about you?
My dad did like rock and roll history, and I had like thousands of CDs and albums in my house growing up. So music always was a pretty big influence on my life, even though I cannot sing or play any instrument whatsoever. I've always loved listening to music. I'm very much with you. I really love everything. When I'm by myself, a lot of times it's hip hop because there's too much cursing for the little kids. So it's like my chance to have some like dad alone time with his hip hop. But like with them, they really love indie music. My kids are so hip for 5 and 7 year olds. I really love Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. That's up there as one of my favorites. The Even though I know you're not supposed to like him now or whatever, but Kanye West, my dark twisted fantasy or whatever is just, I think, one of the better albums of all time. Those two would be probably my two favorite hip hop albums.
Is there anything else you collect other than artwork?
I'm a simple man. I mean, it's hard enough to work and try to be a good parent, and I do all the cooking here, so I try to keep it basic. I watch sports every once in a while, but yeah, not a big collector. I mean, art supplies like crazy. Yeah, art supplies is the thing that I collect for sure. And very recently, I've really gotten into frisbee golf, so I'm slowly building up quite the frisbee collection. So you're right.
It happens. Well, I have this Picasso book here, book collection myself. I've had this one for a long time. I actually got it from my grandmother, who's still around. She had a book collection, and I'd mentioned that I wanted to start collecting books, and she had given me this.
Picasso books myself. I mean, it's hard not to, when you do cubism. I mean, I definitely get the Picasso times a day. And I mean, there's worse things than being described as seeming like the most famous painter probably ever. I mean,
right?
He's kind of a jerk. Do you know the Modern Lovers song? Like, no one ever called Pablo Picasso an asshole. Not like.
I don't think so, but tell me about it.
There's just a really good Modern Lovers song that, like, one of the main line is, no one called Pablo Picasso an asshole, not like you. I've always wanted to call Pablo Picasso an asshole. I've been a couple times on the comments, like, people are like, you're like Pablo Picasso. Like, no, that guy's an asshole. Or do you like Pablo Picasso? Like, no, that guy's an asshole.
I'm sure you get some interesting responses to that.
Yeah, some reason for no references from obscure rock bands from the like late 70s.
Do you have a favorite movie of all times?
Favorite movie for sure is Shawshank Redemption. I don't know, just the very ending of that movie pumped me up more than any movie of all time. So it's been a long time as the list is number one, but I just can't think of a movie that gets you that excited.
I'm unofficially creating a list of favorite movies by creative people.
Gotta name yours.
My first favorite movie ever, Labyrinth with David Bowie.
Ooh, that's so good.
And did you know David Bowie was also a painter?
I did.
Have you ever done any art for album covers?
I've done several and been asked quite a bit, and I usually say yes. Like, I feel like my art's really good if you're stoned. So I get a lot of people who are sitting there, I think, like real high, and they're like, "That is so great," and then they hit me up and then forget about it. That's my take, but I definitely get hit up for it quite a bit, and I'm usually happy to oblige. I'm not out trying to. I mean, I feel pretty darn lucky to have a full-time job and then selling as much art as I have been the last couple of years, where I'm just, if it was a full-time gig, there'd be more things where I'd be a lot more protective about how much money I'm making for it.
About all the musicians that can't go out and play concerts, which is their livelihood.
Yeah, I feel like the pandemic's like perfectly suited for artists, like for painters. Like, I mean, I have no problem staying locked in my studio for hours listening to music and painting, and I can then show it on Instagram and get seen by thousands of people. But if you make music, I mean, I guess you can put it up on Spotify or something, but just not the same as going to a good concert.
Are you from So Far Sounds?
No.
They're all over the country. Opposed to going to, say, a bar or a big venue to go see a show, I, for example, could sign up to host a concert at my house.
Oh, cool.
And so it's kind of, I mean, obviously this is not happening right now, but the reason I bring it up is So Far Sounds is recording musicians playing from their homes and then showing that online. So that is a way for musicians to get out and play now. But prior to that, the idea was, yeah, it was all house concerts. A lot of musicians I talked to just really love that, because a lot of times I see music at a bar. Maybe some people are there specifically for the music, but a lot of people are there just to talk to their friends. And then it also had kind of almost a kind of a ravey aspect where you would buy a ticket for a concert on a certain day and you wouldn't know where it was or what music it was going to be. So there's always surprise who's going to be performing.
I'm into all of this, and I like having random fun. It's like the most fun. So when you're not expecting it. There's an artist or a musician by the name of Dave Bazan, and he does a lot of those house concerts, and then he also does like really long Q&A sessions. They're like almost as long as the concert. And I don't know, I found it to be really interesting to just get that intimate of a setting with an artist and get to ask them anything. I have experienced it a little bit, but I'm a pretty big fan of that.
Another way we are adapting until things.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see. I mean, what's your sense of where galleries are going to go in the time of in a pandemic world?
I honestly have no idea, but at the moment we're just open by appointment and we've kind of suspended our normal exhibition schedule. We've always had a really strong online program to begin with, so that's definitely super helpful. A lot of galleries are doing Zoom interviews, do kind of a different conversation program through the gallery. So for me anyways, it's just kind of about shifting that we can still reach our audience. I don't know if you ever check them out. There's platforms like Artsy and First Dibs and ArtNet where multiple galleries all sell in that website. And that's something for pandemic amount of work being sold online had just increased a lot. That was really shifting. Even say 10 years ago, that was something people didn't quite trust to do as much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm shocked sometimes when people send me over like thousands of dollars over online, and like, you haven't seen this piece like physically, and you're gonna send thousands of dollars to me. It's like the amount of trust is there, but I also have, I mean, enough followers. Like, I'm not really a scam, obviously. It takes like almost getting to a certain point where people don't think you're gonna scam them.
Right. Like maybe if you were some just random guy on eBay or something like that. They're like,
Yeah.
don't know about him.
I've been trying new ways out. So this weekend I have my second art auction that I'm doing. Instagram live with the Frida art show. You should join it, see what you think. But last time I sold everything out in 30 minutes.
Wow.
12 pieces. And it was super, I mean, that was one of the bigger rushes I've had as an artist, just because, just to see that many people bidding and getting pumped, and then to sell it all out. So trying again this Sunday, see if I have the same sort of luck. But I think sometimes there's something about like needing to make a quick decision about a piece you like, versus I think it's easy to talk yourself out of a piece, especially if it costs a couple $1,000s. It's like you might love it in the moment, but the next day you can be like, I'd really also like to repair my brakes, whatever the new expenses, right? So I think, at least for me, the first time was great, and if it keeps working, I think it might just be something where once a month I auction off like 4 or 5 pieces.
And who puts that on? I was checking out the Instagram page earlier just because I was going through your page and saw you had.
So her name's Lee Lucas, and she's the one who came to me, and then she's actually become my art manager because we got along so well. So she's the one who actually put together my website and has kind of helped me with sales the last several months. Kind of just randomly met on Instagram, and she asked me to be a part of a show, and then we just got along very well. So it seemed like a strong partnership.
And the show that she put on, was it a physical show or was it an online show?
So I mean, when it first started, her first season, she was like going to it was like bayareaartist, and she was going to their studio and doing the show. When we did ours, it was just like this, only on Instagram Live. And then she has her boyfriend sits there and like counts the bids as they come in, because you kind of need a couple people for the operation.
Right. I imagine. I mean, it's still a pretty small operation given,
Yeah, technology is pretty great, and in this instance, I think people get to really see it, and they see me as a real person and not just like just random Instagram post.
So what is the average price point of the work that's being sold through these auctions? Is it pretty wide?
The biggest one was just like a few $1,000s, I would say, but my sweet spot seems to be like 800 to 1,500. I'm in a place in my career just trying to figure out what's next, because I think I can kind of consistently sell stuff in that range. But the next level of going quite a bit more expensive, I don't know enough people who are spending $10,000 for paintings.
Well, and then at that point, your market changes.
I get lots of requests for different things, like galleries or online platforms or whatever, but just almost impossible to navigate like what is a smart decision as an artist. At least I've found that to be the case. So it's easier to just do my own thing.
Particular auction on Sunday, is it just going to be your work?
Yeah, my work. It'd be cool to deal with other people. Right now, it's just my work.
And how does somebody attend?
Get on Instagram at 6:00 on Sunday, and then just click when I go live. They just click on it.
I'm going to check that out.
I don't know if it's the future or if I just had beginner's luck, but sold every piece. So I can't complain, and none went under what I was kind of expecting them to.
I mean, it happens, but I don't think it's a super common thing to have a gallery opening and sell every painting on opening night. It happens for some artists, but I don't think that's something you can really expect.
The few times I've had gallery shows, even when you do really well, it's still like 100 people opening night versus getting a couple hundred people on Instagram Live.
A lot of success on Instagram. You said you started the page and then the page grew and then it grew and then it grew. Do you think it's the hashtags you're using? Do you have any idea how you did that? For lack of a better question.
Yeah, I'd like to think I'm pretty good at it. I really take a lot of like when I switched to taking photos outside with natural light, I think that was a really big boost for me. kind of like interacting more in the comment section started boosting me quite a bit. Like asking questions, I really try to keep it as genuine as possible. I feel like there's a lot of kind of Instagram art pages where everyone's just the happiest person in the world and everything's about triumphing and like all I did was kick ass all day every day. Isn't life amazing? But I think I like to keep it a little bit more real with folks, and some of the people that have been around are like super excited for my success, which like I don't feel like that many artists get kind of fans that are this invested because they've seen me go from 50 followers to 50,000. Feels good, but I think the hashtags help. Art is just a little bit more relatable, I think, than some people's art. Like I think it photographs pretty well, but because of what you're saying about Picasso, like there's a reference point between, like, most people will at least can kind of see what it is. And like I write a lot of weird stuff in there and it's complicated for me, but I don't think necessarily everyone that's seeing it is getting into all the weird esoteric stuff that I'm doing when I'm making the pieces. They're like, those lines are really cool, or that collage looks great. So yeah, I think some of it is just how it translates on an actual image, I think has helped. By no means do I think I'm the world's greatest artist. Like I think there's so many artists who are a lot better than me, but that do Instagram probably way worse than me.
I also appreciate artists that are humble. Having met you, it makes me like the work. I'd say if we jumped on here and kind of a pompous jerk, I'd be like, I don't think I like that work anymore. So your work, they maybe engage with you and they go, he's a really nice guy.
The other part I've been talking to my wife about, I think like I get so many young artists that like my work, and I think so much of it is because they could actually do it. I get so much fan art where people will do something like that looks just like mine, or they're copying it or whatever. But like, I mean, none of this really bothers me. I'm not doing lawsuits out there or anything like that for copyright infringement. I mean, I'm pretty honored when high school students are drawing my pictures, which happens quite a bit. Just this month, a high school student from teacher in El Paso did a big assignment about my work and doing it on books and stuff. So other than tattooing, I felt like when teachers are teaching their kids how to make art like me, it feels pretty good, given that my humble beginnings, and still feel pretty humble about all of this. Like I said, the 50,000 followers blows my mind. Expecting any of this when I just humbly put them up in my office as a union organizer in Oakland.
See what happens. No, bravo. And are you ever going to ladies cut t-shirts, tank tops, something like that?
Probably in the next month or so. The person I did the t-shirts with does all of that. I just like baby steps, and some of this is just reward versus like it takes selling like 100 t-shirts to make as much as one painting. The t-shirts are more about, it's not like it hurts to make a little bit of money, but it's more about just the fun. My friends, I like that they can all wear one of my paintings.
So my boyfriend, it's a very common conversation where I'll show him an image I really like, and he'll say that should be a t-shirt, and went on for years. Really? And now I go, no, I think I can see that. So
yeah, I try to make it accessible if possible. I have a painting up in Nordstrom, so people can buy like under $100 for one that I think actually looks pretty great, when it's like a canvas that's you can buy at Nordstrom. So I've tried to do some lower cost options for folks, but I think that's where I'm headed, is to do a lot more prints and kind of that in that world. Now that I have someone who's a little more tech savvy helping me out, I'm not tech savvy.
You're providing a wider range of price points.
Right.
So anybody who wants something can find something.
That hopefully it's like a gateway drug and they buy the t-shirt and then they have to get a painting in a year or two.
Yes, or they need shirts and then they need the print and then all the paintings.
There we go.
Are there any other specific advice you would give to young artists to just get their work out there?
I mean, I think the 10,000 hours rule or whatever, the Malcolm Gladwell thing of just like, when I look at some of my paintings from 20 years ago, I just think they're awful. I mean, there's very few where I'm like, that's a really good painting. And like, I mean, I was a good painter. Practice, showing every day. I think being humble, trying to be influenced by the world a little bit more, I think. I mean, for me, I do politics and I've been in the forefront of Bay Area kind of lefty politics for years. You know, that kind of infuses into the work. I think when you actually have stuff that you want to convey, that helps. Just not being afraid to put it out. I mean,
so basically just work hard doing it and put it out there.
Keeping your eye on the prize. I feel bad saying it, but the other one for me really is just to have some kind of day job. I think the second you start making art to sell it, I feel like your art kind of suffers, or you end up getting stuck doing the exact kind of same piece over and over again because that's the one that sells. So for me, it's all gravy. It's like whatever I make is fun money that make, you know, I get to go buy art supplies with, versus I've just seen some full-time artists seem like really beat down because it just highs and lows, and a lot of it's based on things you have no control over. It's like when the stock market's doing really well, people buy more paintings because they're feeling more wealthy or whatever. I mean, whatever it is, the more you just have to kind of live off your art. I think it's more power to you if you could do it. I mean, I think I could do it if I was in like where I grew up in Illinois, but Bay Area, it's so pricey. So, I mean, it's just a different kind of ball game, but it's not something where I personally get stressed about my art ever.
Any shout outs?
Shout outs? I'm going to be doing a lot more shout outs on my stories just because I do feel like I have a pretty good platform at this point, but I really love kind of bringing other artists up and trying to expose them to more fans because there's just so many great artists out there.
Well, I love that. Thanks, Gabe.
A really good time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
I followed you on YouTube, so I am going to get to see all of them. Such a pleasure.
Good night.
Good night.